Thank you, Stuart. And I'd like to welcome everybody today to this very beautiful space. My name is Safar, and I'm a One Spirit Interfaith minister, and it's my privilege to be here, so I'll give myself a warm welcome as well. Thank you. It's good to laugh, isn't it? Thank you so much. So the title of our service today is, could anybody tell me, are we returning to our own inner oneness, and also, therefore, that of nature? So it's a big question, and it's a question that seems to be with me an awful lot lately. So I hope we can share this together. For me, I'm sharing thoughts, and they say, you know, we stand on the shoulders of great persons from over the history of time. And today I quote quite a lot from Carl Jung, from a book of his on nature, technology, and modern life, which sounds strange, but I'm going to open with some words from that book, and I'm going to therefore light the chalice. So I would ask all of us, let's open our hearts. If I use language which isn't suitable for yourself, I know a lot of people don't like the words God, and sometimes I might use that word, but please always replace terminology with your own, whatever feels right. And what we know about the Unitarians is that there is no dogma. Hence, I can be here myself, because I think dogma can have hurt many of us. It certainly wasn't good for me anyway. So let me read these words. It says, nature is not matter only. She's also spirit. Spirit seems to be the inside of things, the soul of objects. So I'm going to read that one more time, okay? Nature is not matter only. She is also spirit. Spirit seems to be the inside of things, the soul of objects. And, you know, when we're talking about coming into our own oneness, then are we saying that spirit is the inside of us? That perhaps unknowable, undefinable, but something that we breathe with, or breathes for us. When I light a candle, which I do pretty much every day in my own house, I tend to light it to what I call the highest source of light, which to me means to invoke the laws of harmony for each and every one of us, whatever that means. we can't always know, can we? And I would light it for each and every one of us here in this beautiful city, in our beautiful country, and in our whole world. May we have light, and may we rediscover that oneness, all of us. Very good. So we're going to have our first hymn today, which is in the green book. They're all green books, so that makes things simple. Number 46, Breathe on Me, Breath of God. Breathe on me, breath of God, so shall I never do, but live with thee the perfect life of eternity. Thank you so much. For me, it's lovely to be able to pass the music on to a lovely pianist and this lovely other person at the back. So it's so lovely. Thank you. Now, I sometimes show emotion. If I do that, please bear with me. I'm not going to collapse at your feet. But if it happens, I often feel touched, deeply touched. And I have, over many years, learned to acknowledge and allow that. For me, it's part of rediscovering that spirit. Maybe it's setting it free once again. I'm going to give the first reading, which continues with Carl Jung. I think he was very brave for his times, one of these great people that I can manage to stand on their shoulders. Jung believed the loss of emotional participation in nature has resulted in a sense of cosmic and soul isolation. It is not the airy Christian we've lost, but the more concrete bush soul that links us with ancestral spirit in nature. Nowadays, we have a lot of acceptance, don't we, of shamanism, and ancient teachings are beginning to become very relevant in our times, which personally I celebrate greatly. These great drumming circles and so on. For me, it's rejoining this ancestral spirit. And we have the phrase that's coined body, mind, and spirit. It's been my quest, personally, my seeking and searching for many, many years, and from days when I was but a rebellious teenager, and was very not happy with many things and didn't know how to say that except be a rebel. So Judeo-Christian and scientific materialism have contributed to the current negative attitude towards its spiritual dimension. So often we deny, our society at large, it denies that spirit, and that's mumbo-jumbo and wu-wei and I don't know what else we call it. But when I hear that song, Breathe on Me, Breath of God, it's like, and I'm out in nature and I feel that fresh air. I don't mean a wild, crazy wind that I might have to shelter from, but that freshness of air on my skin. I remember those words, breathe on me, breath of God. And I feel that as something pretty special. Jung sees the necessity of restoring nature to its original wholeness, and considered matter and spirit as equal mysteries. I like that. It's like matter and spirit as equal mysteries. You know, in my negativity in days gone by, in adolescence, I didn't want to know about this body, and as a result, I definitely mistreated it greatly. I have many scars on this physical matter that can be testimony to my own not accepting of being here, you know. But then when we consider the construction of this matter, it's amazing. I'm very ignorant and I don't pretend to be anything else, but when I can see the hundreds and thousands and millions of cells that are constantly replacing themselves, that when we're in womb time, these cellular multiplications go to the organs they need to go to so that we're born in this physical body. It's a miracle. So matter is infilled with spirit, and for me, this is what it is. And I think the sad thing as well is that many religions, because of their threatening presence, and you'll go to hell if you don't behave yourself, which I received a lot in childhood, so it makes you terrified and think, well, I don't want to know anything about this God that's going to burn me in hell, do I? Of course not. So, you know, let this language let us follow it for what it means to me. And I don't know if anybody's seen the film Wilding recently. I saw it at the depot in Lewis. It's a brilliant film, and it's about these farmers who some 30 odd years ago, I think it's in West Sussex, it's a place in West Sussex called Knepp Valley. People know it, and it's these farmers who braved and decided to not use chemicals anymore on the earth, because it's like we're killing the spirit of earth in a way, because we're not letting that wisdom and natural wisdom of nature do its thing and grow and produce for us. And it's our Mother Earth, and it's giving us sustenance. And they were opposed, over the many years, they were opposed by other farmers, because other farmers said, but this is our livelihood. You know, so of course we're in this flux of time, aren't we? There is change, and there is a change in our consciousness. And then these people in this film Wilding, they show the amazing change over the years with their wonderful land. They had 5 square miles they inherited. They were lucky enough to inherit and lucky enough to be able. And they introduced wild animals into the land that begin to do their own farming with their own wisdom and their own nature. And they waited 10 years to get a license to introduce, I think they're otters, aren't they, into the land that naturally work with streams and so on. But they waited 10 years to get a license and bring them legally back into the land. So for me, it's also interesting, you know, to bring that, to acknowledge the spirit of nature back in land. So acknowledge our own spirit and the spirit of nature. Matter is the tangible exterior of things, and spirit is the non-visible interior. They are given qualities of the world that can only be partially understood, thus tend to be represented by numinous symbols. I love the Om symbol, because to me it sort of brings that feeling of oneness in my heart, and perhaps we can chant it and feel that oneness, you know. So with our candle and with our light, let us just contemplate a few moments and that oneness within ourselves. That whatever it is, it says here wisdom, and I've got many of these quotes, and some of them come from Rumi, that ancient mystic wisdom. It says, wisdom is avoiding all thoughts that weaken you. Empowering your thoughts is what it's about. So wisdom is avoiding all thoughts that weaken you. If I'm thinking that I'm nobody, I'm no good, who am I to conduct a service? I don't know anything. It's so easy to fall into these old patternings that many of us have learnt in childhood through no fault of anybody. So let us just remain in silence for a few moments. And as you breathe, I also listen a lot to Thich Nhat Hanh. I think he's just this beloved being. And he says, breathing in, I have arrived. And breathing out, I am here. And of course, it's spirit into matter. Your spirit, my spirit, anybody's spirit into matter. Which in itself is another miracle, isn't it? Let's breathe gently for just a few moments. So let's remain linked to our breath. That ancient spirit that is you, that dares to be here. And when I say here, I mean in this physical body at this present time, anywhere, any place. I'm going to continue reading from this great wise being. The ancient view held that the soul was essentially the life of the body, the life breath, or a kind of force which was assumed spatial and corporal in form at the moment of conception or during pregnancy or at birth, and left the dying body again after the final breath. I had the privilege to be with my father because I spent many, many years away, and I had come home a very short time before he became unwell and was in hospital. And the last day of his life, I was on one side holding his hand, and my other sister was on the other side. And I remember his last breath, his final breath, because he never accepted talking about death. He took it as a personal insult. And he lifted up his head, he kind of looked at his body, because he'd been unconscious, and he took this breath. He lay his head back down, and that was his final breath. And he went very softly in the end, and I, knowing just a little bit that the subconscious is always receptive, always captures what is being said, even if somebody is unconscious. And I was encouraging him, yeah, Pa, you can do this. You know, there are people on the other side, they're waiting for you, loving you, welcoming you. You know, soften and just allow, and it can be such a privilege, as much to be with a baby that's been born, as to be with a being who's ready to leave the physicality and go with the spirit. It's that winged spirit. The soul itself was a being without extension, and because it existed before taking corporal form and afterwards as well, it was considered timeless and hence immortal. I do some voluntary work at a hospice in Hastings where I reside most of the time. I don't mean at the hospice. And I was talking to some nurses. They gave us they have lovely courses up there to help us all understand things. And, you know, talking about so many people fear death, you know, going to the unknown, isn't it? Or that we don't remember. And I said to them at the end of their talk, I said, I would be very interested if we could translate the feeling body of the baby about to be born, taking on a physical form that's like going into the unknown, isn't it? Leaving that womb, that familiarity where everything is provided, and then being born. I'd love to be able to find the translation between the baby about to be born and the person equally fearsome of letting go of that physical body. It's quite a journey, isn't it, to be in human form. And one of my chants in life, since I begin to find anything comforting, is spirit into matter. Spirit into matter. And that's what brings life to matter, isn't it? And in primitive man, even the topology, even that land that's surrounding them was taken into an acknowledgement of the furthering of their own consciousness. Who knows what the cry of a bird means to him or to her, or the sight of that old tree? If we have time, you know, I live near a beautiful park in Hastings. It's about 5K, maybe it's 5M, 5 miles, I don't know. It's got some enormously wonderful, beautiful trees, and I often go walking there. And, you know, I often look at the bark and I think, God, if I could understand the writing here on these trees, what would these trees be saying, these great ancient bodies that have been there for goodness knows how long? There's so much, isn't there? And often I weep because I remember the time when I was just such a rebel, I didn't want to know anything about anything. And here I am, you know, at the other end of life and beginning to wake up and think, oh, wow, what a world we live in, what a world. Primitive man, woman obviously, was much more governed by instincts than the rationale, whereas modern descendants have learned to control themselves, dividing the consciousness from the deeper instinctive, unconscious of the strata of the human psyche, etc. So what do we learn in childhood? And I know things are becoming much more wise these days, where children are beginning to be allowed to run and shout and do their thing. But certainly in my day, it was little girls are made to be seen and not heard, you know. So, you know, what did we learn? And the other person I listen to quite a lot, you've probably all heard of him, is Gabor Mate. And this is YouTube. I scroll down off YouTube, and some of these stuff, I don't even know where I got it from. So I can't claim authorship, of course. But Gabor Mate talks about our mind brain, our heart brain, and our gut brain. And he says, if we were out in a jungle having to survive, if we repress our gut brain, we wouldn't survive very long. But in our civilized society, we have learnt to control. So whatever you're feeling, you mustn't scream, you mustn't let it out. Of course, I'm not inviting everybody to stand here and scream, of course, but certainly to be in touch. And what Gabor Mate says, and he's a medical doctor as well, and he's been years and years in his search, and I think he's extremely brave because he's working in a very different way. He said, when we repress, we depress. Our gut feelings, it's very interesting. And he said, the gut sends far more serotonin to the brain than the brain to the gut. So we are all of that, all of that. So it's interesting. And if we do have feelings, we do have instinct, which we all do, we are intuitive. Perhaps it is to listen to the whisperings of our spirit and our soul more and more. At least take a journal now and again and think, okay, tell me more. You know, it's getting to know you, getting to know ourselves. And this is, for me, it's becoming one with spirit. There is nothing without spirit, for spirit seems to be the inside of things. This is still Jungi. Dionysus is concerned with the outside of things, with tangible forms. Everything that is made of earth. But inside the spirit, which is the soul of objects, whether that is our own psyche or the psyche of the universe, we don't know. But if one touches the earth, one cannot avoid spirit. Our Mother Earth, it's becoming something we acknowledge, isn't it? Our Mother Earth. And in another YouTube, they're talking about earthing. Take your shoes off, walk on the grass. If you're lucky enough to have a garden, spend 15 or so minutes barefoot. And if you don't, go to a park and, risk. People are talking about incredible healings happening through such. So as if we touch the earth in a friendly way, the spirit of nature will be helpful. It's our mother. I lay on the earth on the grass yesterday in the evening, and it said, leave all your worries with me. Let it all go. I might be really nervous about coming to Brighton, giving a service. Who on earth am I? Have I really got to stand up there? And Mother Earth says to me, let go your worries. I will hold you. I will hold you. And of course, Father Sky is, for me, we live in this great womb. Father Sky embracing Mother Earth, and that touches me. Perhaps none of us have really been born as we know it or think of it, and we're still in this great cosmic womb, being eternally loved. And how do we treat the earth, and how are we treating the earth? And I think of, the war that is so prevalent in our world today, and is that treating the earth friendly, wisely, chucking bombs and so on? So, within that light, within that candle, may we begin to learn to touch earth in a friendly way. So shall we sing our next hymn? And it's 176, Green Book. Talking together in search of new beginnings for all, where understanding and trust surround us, born of hate and fear that bound us. Come together, oh, come together, oh, come together in love. Sometimes I think we could have a service just with the hymns. They've got such beautiful words, really. Could be a community service, couldn't it? So I'm going to take us into a time of prayer, but I'm going to read something here. Let's breathe with our heart, our heart. I sometimes say, let's put our heart into our mind into our heart, and our heart into our gut, and let us, each one of us is just this amazing creation. We're so unique. We don't have to be like anybody else. We may find we're similar, but we're all unique, and this beautiful creation waits for each of us to shine with our very own shining star that's within. So this quote, this prayer, comes from Khalil Gibran, the prophet. I cannot teach you the prayer of the seas and the forests and the mountains, but you who are born of the mountains and forests and the seas can find their prayer in your heart. And if you but listen in the silence of the night, you shall hear them saying in silence, Our God, who are thy winged self, it is thy will in us that willeth. It is thy desire in us that desireth. It is thy urge in us that would turn our nights, which are thine, into days which are also thine. We cannot ask thee for aught, for thou knowest our hearts before they are born in us. Thou art our need, and in giving us more of thyself, thou givest us all. Thank you, Stuart. So let us breathe again into our heart center, into our whole being. Bring that breath of God to within you, that breath of spirit that holds this whole creation, that really, when scientists try to explain it and define it, perhaps is something ultimately inexplicable and indefinable. I've spent many, many years of my life, and I still go there. In Mexico, I lived there very long term for 20 odd years, and now over the rest of the years, it's been about 30 years, where I have met a people heart to heart, and we've worked with troublesome areas within ourselves, and shared together and hugged together. And I'm learning to come back into England, which is where I was born, to embrace my roots, which for a long time in my rebelliousness, didn't want to embrace. I want to share a little bit more, and when I give a service, I leave the service thinking, did I say what I really wanted to say? And probably we'd need a whole weekend or something like that. But they're food for thought, aren't they? Many years ago, I was with a Gnostic group of people in Mexico, and the person who was giving the instruction was holding an orange seed. And he said, if we knew nothing about the science of seeds, we knew nothing about their relationship to trees and fruit, and if I said to you, contained within this seed is a great tree, our roots, its trunk, our branches, our leaves, our flowers, our fruits, you'd probably say that I'm touched, or not fully there, But because we know the science, we say, yeah, of course, we know that. Let's sow it in fertile soil, water it, bless it, love it, whatever, talk to it. But what about the seed that's been sown within each and every one of us? Can we dare, one, think that it's really there, that Creator, with his winged love, with her winged love, has sown something so unique within each of us? My tendency is to be a hermit, and is to be, not in public view anyway. The Mexicans helped me shift a lot of that. And especially when you're talking in a foreign language, it's not so difficult because it doesn't come to your roots, does it? It's a little step away, maybe. So another quote from Rumi is, and perhaps we all know it, is what you're seeking is seeking you. So if we think we're not loved, we're not wanted, we're not valuable, these quotes from Rumi, from the mystics, I love Hafiz too, I think he's this crazy child lover of God, I love him. And, what you're seeking is seeking you. Can we listen in that silence? Can we open our heart? Can we bear the pain of joy? Because sometimes joy and ecstasy can be too much to bear, the same as pain can be too much to bear. We're amazing. Our creation, we're amazing beings. And I love to listen to Thich Nhat Hanh because think of what he's been through. Vietnam, monks burning themselves to be saying we don't want this war. He knows what suffering is. And yet what I feel emanates from him is a great love, and is a great gentleness, and is a great wisdom. He's, our heart in our mind, our heart in our heart, our heart in our gut. We can process. And our essence in that seed is that love. It is that divine love, which I don't think we have actually got a definition. I often think it's the glue that holds the whole of creation together, all the galaxies and the stars. And anybody seen the meteor shower that's happening this weekend? So a YouTube download here, I can't tell you who from, but anyway, the soul uses many different ways to send its messages. and will keep on sending the message in different ways until you finally understand what it means. So keep looking, aligning more closely to the authentic self which you are, your own authentic self. Don't give your power away to some unknown authority. Don't think that somebody else, yes, we're all here to share, and maybe this pathway and maybe that. I'm just sharing my thoughts. But ultimately, that voice in you, that intuition in you, and I don't mean this in an ego way, I don't mean this in a rebellious way, I mean this in the quietest, innermost listening. The wisdom is held within you, what you're most drawn to, what you most love. You know, maybe it's music, maybe it's writing, maybe it's dancing. Look at some of these athletes, their passion that drives them to push themselves beyond is extraordinary. All of us, we're all extraordinary beings. You might be drawn to a particular color, you might be drawn to creatures, to whatever you're drawn to, listen to that. Listen to what you're drawn to. Listen inside. Take your journal, jot down, get to know yourself. Like that ancient song from, was it The King and I? Getting to know you. And then something I managed to say myself, it's like I am open to the wisdom and insights my soul provides. I'm open to the wisdom and insights my soul provides. Sometimes very early in the morning, before the world has begun to make too much noise. You know, it can be a quiet time to just capture. Because before that creator is there for you, that male, female, I don't think it's male or female, actually. I just think it's, how can we put a title or a name to it? Happiness is the key to success, not the other way around. Happiness is the key to success. When I feel joyful in myself, there's a fulfillment. It's nothing to do with whatever might be a career, what might be love, what might be money. It's the happiness, the joy. And I think happiness is not easy to define either. But certainly your gut can tell you many things. You know, if I can uncover. As a child, I used to spend, I'm talking about pre-verbal child, I used to spend a lot of time in my grandparents' garden, which was in Hereford, Leominster. My parents spent a lot of time, they were mad keen on being actors, so they were from theatre, you know. And because I was, you know, like the height of the plants, no taller, of many plants, my inner wordless language was with the elemental beings that I could see, I could capture, and I could feel their innermost beauty. It was almost like seeing them inside of each and every plant that manifests. It's like the plant is the exterior manifestation of this beautiful being. And each and every plant, you know, look around, look at all the incredible variety of plants and fruits, and it's an extraordinary creation, and we are all part of that. Do we have time to get to know that innerness, our own spirit? Because with this, we are born. With this, we live. And with this, we live. The other thing I look at an awful lot, because I find great joy and great encouragement in death experiences. Sometimes they're the most amazing testimonies of people that have left their body for a period of minutes, who knows, and they come back with often great wisdom, great change. And some of their stories, there's a lovely story on YouTube about a man who fell asleep driving and lost his beloved wife, lost his beloved 14-month-old son. His 7-year-old son remained. In the end, the man had a leg amputation, his body was a wreck. And in a moment, he saw his wife, who had died in that other dimension, shall we say. And she said, "You've got to go back. You can't stay here. Our son needs you." And sometimes it's the harder path to take, to embrace life. What do we say? Take the bull by the horns. To embrace life. And sometimes the hardest things that many of us may have lived shake us up with such a force, with such power. And it stops in this dead daily routine. And in a moment, we can have that consciousness changed. I was living in Mexico City when we had these two, back, I forget if it's 85, I think it was 85, where two very, very, very powerful earthquakes hit the land. There were about 8, I don't know what. But you feel your infinitesimalness. Thousands died. International bodies came in to rescue. And they said sometimes they found babies that had been buried under the rubble 2-3 days, still alive. Amazing. And then I remember at the end of that day, because that was early in the morning, at the end of that day, I remember seeing this great, enormous ball of sun that looked so amazing. And you have this contrast. And this is life. And life is this, with a capital L, please. Is this great teacher, is this great, and I learned this saying in Spanish. I'll tell it to you in Spanish and then I might translate it. Desde el dicho al hecho hay mucho trecho, which means from the saying to the doing, there's a long way to go. And this is the long way to go. Perhaps we can all think we're students, we're disciples, we've come here to learn so much, so much. We could all write books and books and books about our amazing learning. And it's not here to make us suffer. And they say that we plan our own life, we design our own life. Can you believe it? You think, oh, did I really design that? Yeah. And my personal prayer is, may I embrace what I'm here to learn. May I embrace what I'm still here to understand. And how can I support this notion in me, spirit into matter, your spirit into your matter, encounter that wonderful, brilliant, great spirit. And shall we sing that third hymn, 133? sick with fear, and hear their deathless ringing. When friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing to present soul and unto bar? Your thoughts are going in when frames my shame are undefiled. How can I keep from singing? So I'd like to say thank you for entertaining me here today. Thank you for holding me here. And I'm going to give a final thought, which is the chalice blessing. And then I thought the fourth hymn, which I'm always a bit dodgy with time. I learnt to be Mexican. But I thought we could sing it once I've done the chalice blessing, as if all of us are doing that blessing within our own hearts and souls and spirits. And then I will ask our lovely pianist to play our postlude, during which time two lovely beings that are resident here, I believe, not in the church, but anywhere around, will pass around these little bags that are, if you wish to donate anything for the upkeep of the church, you're very welcome, but please don't feel obliged in any way, okay? So the chalice blessing, may we hear the whisperings of our soul when angels visit us. An angel can be a tiny child laughing, can be the whisperings of the trees on the leaves. So may we hear the whisperings of our soul when angels visit us. May we hear the rustle of their wings, and may we feel the love that they create within each and every one of us. Let's pray in the fullness of our joy, in the days of our abundance. So our chalice blessing and our final hymn, 307. And when I send the lights, when we complete it, let us all have that intention in our hearts, wherever we wish to send that light for me and every Father's thought. So please know that you are included in the sending of that light. Okay?
Just if you go, it's an introduction, not the you may know the song. And we can receive it.